Well, good morning. It is Friday at about 10 o'clock, and so it's time for relaxing painting with Dice and Dungeons. And in fact, there is, just like there has been on Monday and Wednesday, there will be painting going on, and it will be painting for Dice and Dungeons. Yeah, that's pretty good, isn't it? That hasn't happened in quite a while, so I hope it's not too disorienting or anything for all of you. I have to say today is going better than Wednesday. I can tell it's going better because I haven't spilled the paintbrush cleaning water like I did on Wednesday. I haven't almost knocked over my coffee mug like I did on Wednesday. I didn't push the wrong button when I started the stream, because on Wednesday what I did was I just I don't know. It's like almost next to impossible to mess it up on the Stream Deck, but I did, and that's why it was late starting, because I had to reboot everything to fix the mistake I had made. So yeah, it's way better so far. I keep telling everybody, if you are going to do modeling, that you should always keep your work surface clean, put things away so that you have space to work in. Don't create clutter like that. Okay. I should put all of those away so that they're not in the way. And I should have put my brushes away because I have a spot for them where they're not clutter, but I haven't. So once again, it's as any parent would tell their child, do as I say, not as I do. Right? That's a parent thing to do. It's really not fair, but okay. So I'm not totally coherent, but anyway, don't do that to your kids. Don't say, don't do as I do as I say. But in this case, if you're doing modeling, it really is a good idea to put your paints away and get them out of the way so that they're not cluttering stuff up. Like I'll be using one of the colors that's out here, and yeah, probably two of them. This one too. I'll be using two of all of those that you saw, because what I'm working on today, well, I'll show you what I'm working on today, and then I'll clean this up a little bit. This is a purchased model of a Bulette, which is a real Dungeons and Dragons monster. It is huge. So if I put this model down next to these minifigs, that's about the appropriate ratio of sizes. This is a little smaller model, and it lives underground. It burrows underground. Somehow or other, it just makes a tunnel like a mole or, whatever lives underground. They tunnel through the ground, and then they pop up and eat you. So it's considered to be an extremely dangerous creature. It, it just doesn't, it isn't just nice. It just goes around destroying things. So that's the lore behind the Bulette anyway. I could have looked at the bottom. I had to look up how to spell it, but it's right there on the bottom of the model. It says how to spell it because it says it's Bulette. So this is an official one. This is one that was printed on the rosin printer across the hall. And the problem that this guy is having is that it's been fungus infected, right? And the same thing that happened to this guy. The mycelium came up and infected it, and then it's like all veiny and greenish and stuff. So what's going to happen to this one is it's going to be painted this buff color, except for the armor plates, because the armor plates aren't infected. Okay, the flesh is infected. And then the bottom is going to be painted this buff color, and then I'll be making veiny lines all over it. Okay, like that. And then these things that are growing up out of it will be painted yellow with green stripy stuff on it. So it won't look like this, because obviously it's not like that, but it'll have the same sort of infected by fungus colors. So yeah, this one has green feet, yellow with green feet. I think this one will just, the toenails are like keratin or whatever, bony plates like the top. I can put this aside now that you've seen the basic color scheme. And then, so I'm going to start by base coating the bottom, right up to but not including the toenails and the carapace kinds of things. And then I'm going to paint the bony armor. The bony armor is going to be this kind of brownish, greenish. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. I'll probably test a few things. Okay. And then I'll paint the spiky growths, the yellow color, including the mushrooms. The other thing that's on here is that it has open sores like this. Okay. Kind of. They're going to be gross looking. If I recall correctly, they're supposed to be, I can't recall correctly. I asked this twice yesterday, and now I can't remember. They're either going to be black with red ooze or red with black ooze. One or the other, but they're one of the last things that get painted on here. So I have time to ask somebody which way it's supposed to go, because one way or the other. So the base coating, the most difficult thing about it is just going to make sure that it's covered in paint. I don't need to worry too much about getting paint on the toenails and the armor plating, because those will be overpainted with the color combination that I figure out by testing different things. And then this is the base coat on all of the fungus stuff. The spiky things is yellow, and that's pretty straightforward. So that's what I'll be doing today. And I'm going to be taking my time doing it, because although I'm not as tired as I was on Wednesday, and odds are I won't knock over and break as much stuff as I did then, or not, spill things. Every day on Relaxing Painting with Dice and Dungeons is an anything can happen day. Yeah, I did not get around to watching an episode of the Mickey Mouse Club. I didn't do that. And so I can't tell you what they did, if anything. Well, let me show off these guys. I'm going to show these guys off a little bit, though. These are Ulstein Grotfeld dwarves. These are kind of an adversary that we have. Well, we met them and then upset them, and now they don't like us. And so when we run into each other, they're unfriendly. We've done a heist against them, just sort of took some things that they had actually stolen before. Okay, so I guess it was okay to recover those items. We snuck into their warehouse, and well, some time ago, I think we somehow damaged their castle. But anyway, they don't like us, and these are carrying projectile weapons, which are not standard D&D kinds of things. But in the world we're living in, there's this thing called fervent tech, where a guy named Fervent hundreds of years ago discovered these crystals that are very powerful. They're like a radioactive kind of thing. They give off energy, and the energy has been used to create a projectile weapon. So I'm guessing that's what's going on with these guys. I spent more time on these. These are poison gas throwers. Hi, Ole. Oh yeah, practices today. But thanks for dropping in. I appreciate it. Is your daughter gonna? Thanks. Is your daughter gonna let you watch her practice, or are you banished again? Yeah, I think it came out okay. The brown undercoat with the very thinned metallic worked all right. And after trying like 5 different combinations of yellows and greens, I think I got one that worked pretty well for the poison gas cylinder on the weapon here. And then I painted the barrels green because they're holding poison liquid gas instead of, oil or something. And they would have been painted red. And I actually got the wash on it. Oh yeah, drop her off, come back, and go get her again. So you don't have. Congratulations! It's a great day for you. Then you've like gone. You hit 10,000, and now just in a couple of weeks doubled that again to 20. Wow! Congratulations! That's really cool, and you deserve it. I hope your kids appreciate what not only their rides, but also what you're doing with your stream. So anyway, these guys came out looking pretty good, I think, considering my lack of skill level. And I got the, some of the shading and stuff on there. It almost looks like Nicole had done it. So I'm kind of happy with how that turned out. But everybody congratulate Ole on the 20,000 subscribers. Well, I'm developing some skill, I guess. I'm doing things I hadn't done before. And so, it's coming along. Oh, this is a box. This is held the Bulette while I primed it. You can see all the primer. Oh yeah, this is another big deal today. I am getting out a new paint palette. The other one just got so bad, and I'm so cheap that I only switch these out like twice a year. But look, it's all shiny and white, and it's not all covered in different paint. They came in a package of maybe 12 or something. Yeah, I think there was a dozen in here. The workshop's in the basement. Yeah. It gets too cold here to work out in the garage. But yeah, it's in the basement. So yeah, this is actually this workbench that I'm working on is a family heirloom. My dad made it ages ago, and I've moved it like 3 times now. It disassembles. There's about 100 screws on it. It all comes apart, and it's just 2x4s and plywood, but yeah, it serves the purpose, and it's a family heirloom. So yeah, we got it down in the basement. We put a lot of lights up, all sorts of LED tube lights and these kind of things that are in these metal cans. Who? I haven't seen you in weeks and weeks and weeks. Welcome. And because of that, I have not done a flip since the entire time you've been away. I'll have to find my flipping stuff. Yeah, you can. So this was very robustly made. Um, it's you would not be surprised to hear that it's also cluttered. You know, things get used and then they get set back, and then anyway, it all needs to be straightened out. There's a couple of things I've been looking for that are down there that I haven't been able to find yet. Here's some flipping, not paint. If I get if not paint wins, tied 2-2. No, 3 paints, so 3-3. Huh, that's kind of like random worked. How about that? But I'll give the tie to painting. Otherwise, I just have to end the stream now because I have nothing else to do. I'm reaching over to set this back on the shelf. Okay, there's a spot where it was at, but a roll of tape fell. It's using up the spot. Yeah, isn't this is so bright and shiny? I don't, you almost hate to mess it up, but I should have kept. I'm going to do that. Yeah, I'll do before. Here, this is what it's replacing. I didn't even clean it last time after I used it because it just got, at some point it becomes unusable. Right. So after like 6 months, I decided I'd use another, like, this is like 28 cents or something. Okay. I'm going to try to throw this in the trash can. My odds of getting this in there are like 1 in 100. Nope, it just fell on the floor. Yeah, we have a walkout level on our house, and I'm in the mechanical room, kind of. It's where the furnace is, and we've just got a bunch of shelves and an unfinished ceiling and stuff. But we built a studio. We built a real studio for the Dungeons and Dragons show through the door and to the left. And that's got all sorts of cool lighting and microphones and computers and all sorts of stuff that our DM has set up for us. Some comfy chairs. So yeah, it's where we do our D&D show. It's a pretty, actually, we redid the whole finished area of the basement about 3 years ago. So there's a lot of space, and we've managed to just clutter it. Pretty good at that. But yeah, it's down in the basement, and it's kind of like being in a cave in a sense, in that the temperature stays consistently a little bit too cool for me. Everybody else in the Dice and Dungeons group thinks that the temperature is just fine. Behind the scenes, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Is to just show, somebody with a camera could show the immense clutter on the 4x8 surface of my workbench. That's the size of the piece of plywood, right? So like cut it, just build around it. But the studio is pretty nice. That's a good idea. Thank you. It's always kind of fun to do that kind of thing. I've been left with all like the primitive stuff. I think some of these monitors are ancient. I mean, relatively ancient. The Ring camera thing. Those are inexpensive. That the camera that's facing me was determined not to be usable in the studio. We should rename this thing the Low Budget Semi-Skilled Modeling Show. Thank you. You too. Have a good weekend. And thanks for dropping in. Congratulations on the 20K. That's amazing. That's really, really good. And thanks for your ongoing support. Yeah. I mean, just after doing this for over a year, I finally decided that, what this is not that this actually is a how-to modeling show, except that it's not how to do professional level display modeling. This is how to do, if you're just like an average modeler builder, a casual, not professional, I guess I'll say that, right? So if you're that level of model building and you're working off of a fairly limited budget, because you don't want to spend all of your life savings on models and all sorts of other stuff, and the things that go with it. This is actually not a bad place to see that, because that's exactly what I'm doing, is that in some ways I'm learning as I go. To be honest, in some ways I'm actually doing that. And I do have a pretty limited budget, so I can show you like modeling techniques that I just sort of pick up or read about or watched that can be done by someone at this skill level. So if you buy models, if you're familiar with those, you know that the box always says like skill level 1, skill level 2, skill level 3. There's only 3 levels, so that the definition of the levels is pretty coarse. It's not, it's not a 3.3. I mean, that wouldn't be 3.3. That would be hugely skilled. There isn't like a 1.7 skill model out there. It's just 1, 2, or 3. And so I think I progressed. I'm past level 1, so I guess that, if I'm past level 1, I guess that means I'm at least level 2, but I'm kind of like maybe a mid-range 2. My daughter, for some reason, you never know the reasons how these things happen. Her elementary school invited a karate school to come in and just give lessons like after school, once or twice a week. And my daughter did that, and they have all sorts of different levels. You start with a white belt, and then as you progress, you get a stripe on your belt, and it's a yellow stripe. And then after some time and developing more skills and all of that, then the white belt yellow stripe turns into a yellow belt. And I think I'm getting these colors correctly. I think I'm remembering it. Then you got a green stripe on the yellow belt. We ended up buying a lot of belts. The canvas belts that went with the uniform. I don't remember what they were called. The kind of wraparound garment that they wear when they're doing their workouts and competitions and things. We ended up buying a fair number of belts, and then you get a belt of the color of the stripe, and I'm pretty sure it went from green to purple. these were kids in elementary school, so nobody got to like black belt level. And then there's different degrees of black belt as well. Like it's really complicated. But uh, model building is just 3 skill levels. And you know, there really should be differentiation within each. Like the skill level 1 with a stripe kind of thing, or maybe you need to get maybe 2 or 3 stripes before you move up to skill level 2. Since it's model building, probably should have like decimals. 2.1, that kind of stuff. So why am I going on about this? I'm going on about this because I have to go on about something, you know. And reach in and get paint on surfaces where I want it. I think the chin, you have to do something with the mouth line, to enhance that. Maybe I'll use like black red or something, really dark red. These big surfaces is so odd. Can actually paint the way one is supposed to with long, smooth brush strokes. The critical part here is, getting paint on all the surfaces without missing any. The disclaimer I used for most of the time I've ever done this stream is that this is not a how-to show. But then I made the decision that in fact it is a how-to show, but it's a how-to show at level 1.6. Okay. This is a how to make models past level 1, because I do things like I sand off all the little bits of sprue that are left on the model pieces after they come off the sprue. I learned the word sprue. Okay. When I cement things together, I sand out the seams, especially on things, that have seams like fuselages or tanks, like the fuel tank on the Savoia that I'm building, or a whole bunch of them on the cylindrical parts of the Apollo model. There were lots of seams that needed to be sanded out. Okay, most of this is pretty easy to paint, but these spikes here are not going to be friendly. So that's moving up into skill level 2 territory, some of that. But I'm not doing a skill level 2 how-to painting show because I'm like a novice to, if there were sub-levels, it would be that I would be beyond 1, but like in a I don't know who I said this on the stream. What I'm hoping is going to happen, just as I'm painting this and seeing what it's going to be like, what I'm hoping is going to happen is that we're going to run into this Bulette, I mean, it's inevitable. We're going to run into it. But just like, the lion, the story of the lion with the thorn in its paw, the fearsome lion is roaring and destroying things and scaring people and stuff, is somebody came along and said, "Oh, you got a thorn in your paw," and they took the thorn out, and the lion stopped being in pain and became this wonderful, friendly, um, you know, companion. So what I'm hoping will happen is that our Dungeons and Dragons party, midnight brunch, will run into this Bulette, and it will be roaring and writhing and everything, because look at it, it's not healthy, right? I mean, it's got oozing open sores and stuff. And we find a cure. And the Bulette, instead of just ripping us to pieces, is grateful because we've cured it and relieved it of its horrible pain. I'm painting the insides of these, even though they're going to be painted either black with red ooze or red with black ooze. I can't remember which. I do remember that one member of Dyson Dungeons said black with red ooze, and the other one said red with black ooze. And the decision was to go with one of those two things, but I can't remember which. So I'm going to have to ask again before I paint them. But those are going to be near the end of painting things. So that's what I'm hoping, is that that when our DM creates an encounter with this infested Bulette, that we cure it, and then maybe it becomes like an occasional companion. Maybe that'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it? It'd be like Sturmgrimmy, kind of like we haven't met Sturmgrimmy in a long, long time. Maybe time for us to do that. We should go over to the waterfront and call it. Maybe Sturmgrimmy would give us a hand with whatever bad thing is going to be happening sooner than later. But maybe it would become something like Sturmgrimmy after we healed it. And of course, then what we should have, if that's what's going to happen, is we should have a not infested Bulette. It's cured. It doesn't look like this. Checking to see if I missed anything. Looks like I got this beigey buff color on everything that needs to be painted that color. No, we didn't find a cure the last time, but we're experienced now. We run into them before. I think was this the one we ran into? I think it might have been. Okay. Same color scheme is going to be used here. But maybe that's what we should have been doing instead of like studying fervent tech and sleight of hand or whatever we've been doing with our training time. We should have been learning how to cure mushrooms. Oh, Zoria's got medical skill knowledge. Maybe her character, Zoria Ansul, will come up with something. No, you're not going to learn. Nines isn't going to add curing mushroom infection to the repertoire. Okay, this paint isn't coming out of this brush. Is the isopropyl alcohol here. So I base coated the bottom here, and once that paint dries, which will be in a while, I'll be starting to paint all the little red stripy stuff on it. And I think I can make the stripes a little broader than I did on the other model that I showed you just a few minutes ago, because it's just such a much larger model. The thing I'm going to do now is come up with color scheme for the plates. It's supposed to look sort of like this. This is just all kind of blackish and brownish and greenish. Not sure how that's going to go. I'm going to get out just a piece of paper, and I'm going to experiment with some different color combinations. Do it. I've done this a lot before. I did this for the Porco Rosso plane. This is kind of a canvas color, and so I tried different washes on it, and I ended up going with the gray. The blue looked pretty good, but not quite. Same thing here with the inside of the inside detail. It's supposed to be wood, and by itself it looks pretty bland. So I tried different brown washes and ended up doing that. And then I did a bunch of color combinations for here. This is my test palette for the different color combinations for the gas canister on the Utstein-Grotfeld gas throwers. Yellow with green, different greens with yellow on top of them. And I ended up with that one, and it ended up looking okay. So somehow I need to make it kind of look like this. I've got this new paint. It's called khaki, which is kind of really close to this kind of yucky greenish color. I'm going to try that with different washes on it. Try brown. Maybe try a brown with the green wash I've got only works on a light color. So when it goes on a darker color like this, it just looks kind of blackish, kind of brownish, not greenish. I don't know. I'll just use these. I just want to see some combinations. What I really should do, though, before I do it is make sure that I'm seeing spots. I missed spots, really. It's just that. And what I did was I was rotating this thing all over the place, but I didn't rotate it. I didn't look at the top down. Looking at it from the top down. I don't think I need to put a second coat on because I'm going to be painting those red streaky things all over it and then washing it with the green wash that I said ends up looking kind of brownish, but against this beige, it does give it a green tint, so it works okay. This is a new color paint I got for the Porco Rosso model. And it might look pretty good as a scale color with a brown wash on it. I'm going to find out. I don't want to make it too dark. There's some pretty good brown colors that when washed, but they actually look almost too nice then. This one might have promise. It's not a very pleasant color. A fairly long stripe of it. I probably could use a bigger brush to do this because I'm going to try several different things on it, different overcoats, washes. I don't want to get into dry brushing really because I'm not that skilled at that. That's why this is a how-to for a level 1.7 modeler. This is a how-to show. If your skill level is 1.7, that's the number. So it's kind of a show that you can, if you look at it as a how-to show, this would be really good for people who are like level 1.1, and they'd say, oh, I didn't know that, or I could learn that, and I can do that because if he can do it, I can do it, kind of thing. As opposed to watching a show where you're becoming a level 3 modeler, and you go, I don't have the equipment for it, I can't afford it, I don't know how to use it, I'm not that good at it. And that could be frustrating, to watch like a professional modeler doing a how-to show, because you'd find out you couldn't do those things. So this wasn't designed to be a modeling show. This was designed to be a fill-in and a promo for our Dungeons and Dragons show. Okay. That's what this was designed to do. But since I've been doing this for so long and I keep building models, because I don't have dungeon tiles, and this covers really nicely. This is kind of a nice chocolatey paint, despite its name of Beastie Brown. But I've been doing this for so long that I might as well just say, well, this is how I do things. And I'm moving from level 1 to level 2 in my modeling skill level, and you can learn right along with me. Or I've learned how to do this, and let me show it to you. You can do this at home. This is especially a good how-to show for people who don't have an airbrush, don't want to invest in one, and or haven't, like me, found out that they really are not very good at it, can't figure out how to use it very well. So this is good for that too. I think this has some promise. There's another color I could try. I think it might be too dark though. It's a very military color. Like khaki is a military color. So one of the things, if you consider this to be how to go from level 1 to almost level 2, so you can buy skill level 2 models and feel comfortable diving into them. Is this kind of thing that I'm doing now, is rather than just painting a color, starting to experiment with washing and shading and dry brushing and things like that to give additional liveliness to the model. Okay. And I've learned this by just, reading about it, but also doing it, that just use this brush. It's a lot faster. This is olive drab. And this, I think this will just be too dark. In the same color category as the khaki, but it's not going to show unless I use a really dark gray, almost black wash on it. It's just not going to show any texture. I'm not sure I'm going to even, well, yeah. I mean, you learn things, right? Like paint builds up on the lines, they build up in the inside of the jar, and you need to get it really tight. Otherwise it leaks kind of inside the jar and builds up. But if they dry out, then you get this situation where they just sort of, scatter around. And it's important to catch those and keep them away from the surface that you're painting, because they'll get on there and they'll stick. Be a problem. It will be a problem in terms of trying to make it look better. So this is now become how to go from a level 1 to moving into skill level 2 modeling, because I've figured out how to do some of these things and make them look good. The letter grades, when I give them letter grades, it's moving from a B- or a solid B into the A- territory. So the submarine I built, the Renmal submarine, huge, complicated, detailed model. I hit a solid B on that one, I'm pretty sure. Some parts of it actually moved into the A- thing. What I'm doing with the Porco Rosso at Savoia is I want that to be a solid A. I don't think it'll be necessarily be like put it under bright lights in a display case with a magnifying glass kind of display model, but so it won't be an A+, but it'll be definitely A- quality and above. And so far I've been successful at getting that. I think I want to complain about the Mickey Mouse Club more. I really kind of enjoyed doing that, but I'll end up repeating myself, I think. Okay, so if I work off of these two, this is too dark, I'm pretty sure. If I work off of these, is there another color I could use? I'm going to look at my color chart, because this is kind of that earthy, yucky kind of color. I'm not sure I can make this look the way I want it to. We've got this color called Deck Tan. Deck Tan is a pretty decent undercolor. It's lighter than this, but these plates are supposed to be dark, so this will take a lot of wash to make anything of that. Dark sand, this maybe that's got some possibilities. Brown. Got some other options, but I think I want to give these a try before I just, I don't know. I've still got some room here. I could put another color on here and another one here, actually. This is the very top of the model. It's going to be the part that shows the most when you're looking at it. I mean, the red striping streaking on here will stand out, and then the yellow with the green will, pop. But you'll be seeing a lot of the top of this model, and it really should look. It should look good. I'm going to use buff. It needs to be darker than that. Butter brown, maybe. I want to make sure I've got enough of it. The cork brown. Leather brown and cork brown are both pretty good browns. I've got all of these, see, all those paints I haven't put away. Might as well get some more out. Them. Got the blues and the greens. There they are. There's oranges and reds and purples. Can't I find the colors I want? Come on. No, I don't have them out. I'm looking for the right colors of paint. They're all metallics. These are grays. I am baffled by the not finding the colors I want. I don't know where they could possibly have gone. I used cork brown quite a lot on the submarine. It's a good color. I don't think I have it out. Did I use? No, I didn't use it up. I'm really confused by that. I don't know where it could be. Leather brown. You're just watching me go, where? How could that color have disappeared? Yellows. I think these are all extra colors on the bottom, I'm pretty sure. Why is it there? It's in there with the metallics. I'm baffled. Anyway, this is a pretty good color. I'm going to give this a try too. Sorry about that delay. This is, it's all part of how to be an adequate modeler. Is very carefully putting your paints away, like I didn't do, and then not being able to find them because you're looking where they should be. The only concern I have with this is that, well, we'll see if I've got enough in this jar to get more if I need to, but then it would delay things, wouldn't it? Okay, and I think I've got more leather brown. Let me look. Got a lot of dark brown now. The one thing this isn't, like on the Mickey Mouse show, there isn't any fun with music day here, and there's no circus day. It's got a little bit of green in it. I think if I can tell my colors, I used to be really good at mixing colors. When okay, I built models when I was in elementary and up into high school, up until like probably my sophomore year of high school. So it'd be like, oh, I would say from fourth grade until 10th grade, right? So I used to build models a lot. And, when it was pretty much get airplane models, get an airplane model and put it together in just a couple of days because I didn't do any painting. I think the first time I started painting things was painting the wheels black. And I'm pretty sure that those were the colors I started with. I had black and silver. So I could paint the wheels black and the landing struts, the landing gear struts, painting those silver. I never painted the fuselages. I don't remember ever doing that. So I had maybe 3 or 4 colors. I had black and silver and maybe, I don't know, I probably had red for a reason. I don't know why. So, but hardly ever did any painting on these models. And then that's when I think I was like in 7th grade or something when I built a submarine the first time, the Renwall cutaway submarine that I did on this stream ages ago. I did that probably about then. And then I didn't do any modeling again. I started a little bit, like for just a couple of months when I was a graduate student. There was some extra time in the evenings for a while until things got really busy. And I started building a cutty sark. And then abandoned that. And then I hadn't done any modeling again until I started the stream again with the Fungal eliminator. That was the first one. And I did that because I'd started it. I lied a little bit. I didn't really start it. My son Alex started it. But yeah, it had been like 40 years between doing modeling and not doing modeling. But as when I got into high school, I got into these Ed Big Daddy Roth Fink models and wanted to make them look like the box top. And so I mixed my own paints to match the colors on the box top. And I got really good at matching colors. It was a skill I had. The problem, and those were the best models I built because I didn't have any seam filler or anything like that, but I didn't want the seams to show in the models. And so I filled them in with the paint. just built the paint up on the seams. Okay, well, I've got all sorts of colors out here now. I'm going to try smoky ink, dark brown, umber, dark gray, and even this green, to see which ends up looking kind of like the best on these. I am thinking that it's going to end up being maybe the dark brown, maybe the gray. Why do I have two dark grays and no umber? The blue's not going to work, I don't think. Once again, I'm looking for something that should be right in front of me that I can't see. The ink, brown, gray, green. These colors I'm going to use later. Yeah, it's probably one of those things where it's right in front of me. Yeah, there it is, right in front of me. Okay, these aren't dry yet, but these are dry enough that I can start experimenting with some of these wash colors just to see how they end up looking. Just take it by hand. Put a little dab here on the paper and just dip the brush in. It doesn't show on there at all. This is the umber that I was trying to find. I'm going to set it up here. I'm going to set the washes in the order in which I use them, like that, so I can tell which one was which, because otherwise I wouldn't remember. This brown needs a mechanical stirring. Thinking this may end up being. That's really not bad. That looks better on there than I thought it would. Kind of loses its color though. Get a pen, just a second. I'm going to take after I do this, I'm going to take a quick break and show these to Nicole, who plays Zoria on Sewell, to see what she thinks about each of them. Let's try the smoky ink. This is a little reddish, so I'm not sure. I need a kind of like a fresh bottle of this because the it's too heavily pigmented. Oh, good thing that was empty. Try the dark gray. And the last one is sort of a grayish green. Dark green, it's called. I wonder if I got a new one of these. This one's getting to the point where there isn't much of it left. Hold on just a minute again. They end up needing that to finish this. Green isn't bad. See, it gets on the brown and it loses its greenness. It just ends up being kind of a color. It's not too bad on these lighter browns, though. Right. What time is it getting to be? Almost 11:30. Okay, I'm going to take a short break at 11:30. I haven't been taking a break during this stream for weeks now. I'm going from 10 until 1 instead of till 2. So I've been pretty much not taking a break. But I need to take a break this time so that I can get some feedback about the colors here. You know, and it may be, the advice I might get that is none of these are really right. Try this other combination. That could very well be it, but I won't know that until I get up and check it out because I don't want to trust my own judgment to something as large an area as the carapace of the Bulette. Yeah, I'm going to, let's see. I'm just going to take the break now because I really can't move forward until I get feedback on these. And then when I do, then I can base coat the top of this. And then after that's base coated, well, I'll either start painting red stripes to represent the growth of the veiny mycelium up on the legs, or I'll paint the carapace base coat. I'm not sure which. But I am going to take a quick break. It shouldn't be more than like 10 minutes. Ah, it came back. Okay. I wasn't sure because it was just churning away. So the jury came back in with a verdict, and the verdict is khaki with the smoky ink. I'm going to probably try to be a little lighter than that. I might use a new bottle of smoky ink as opposed to the old bottle of smoky ink. Yeah, this is the old bottle. Now I've got two new bottles. Why do I have two new bottles? I don't know. I picked up two. I only needed one. So there. Yeah. So I gave this some thought, and what I've decided to do is to start painting. I'm going to start painting the red tendrils on the bottom rather than base coating the top. The reason for that is that if I paint the top, I'm not going to be able to pick it up. I'll get paint all over myself. And then I would need for it to dry, and I still have an hour and a half left before I'm supposed to stop at 1 o'clock. So if I paint the red tendrils on the what is now dry buff, buff. If I paint the tendrils now, then near the end of the stream, I can paint the top and let that dry over the weekend. There, I marked it. It's a memory aid, that color combination, which I will now put over here. This is kind of tedious, painting these little tendrils. Just they're supposed to come up from the bottom and then kind of spread around. And it took a long time to do it on the other guy, and this is going to take a long time because there's just a lot of it. And yeah, I'll just start. I guess can't finish unless you get started, right? That's one of my aphorisms. And the color I use is a scarlet red. I don't know. Pretty sure I use scarlet red and not a brighter red color. Yeah, I'm pretty sure because it's a little bit darker than really bright red. It looks more fungusy, I guess, more bloody veiny. I'm going to actually hold it upside down to do this so that I can kind of, follow the growth lines up as opposed to trying to paint it from the bottom. There's some danger in that, and like if I drop it, I'm going to bust these things off. You might see that happen. It's just a real possibility. So anyway, time to use the brand new, look at this. This is the first paint in this new palette. There we go. It's no longer clean. Yeah, I'm just going to try to, make them look organically dynamic, I guess. Paint these a little bit, like I was saying earlier, thicker than the ones I put on the other model because they're going on a much larger surface. There have to be a lot of them. This probably would be a good time to start going on and on about the Mickey Mouse show again. I don't know, though. I'm not feeling too much like going on and on about the Mickey Mouse show, but the complaint I was having was that it didn't appear that the Mouseketeers never really did anything other than sing their introduction song. It was all very nice. They all remembered their names, so they'd introduce themselves. That was a good thing. They remembered who they were. And I think, if I remember correctly, they always introduced themselves in the same order. So if they remembered who they were, they just needed to remember, who came before them and who came after them. They made it easier for them, though, because they had their names on their shirts. So in case anybody forgot who they were, they just needed to look down at their shirt, and then they'd get a reminder, like, oh yeah, I'm Cubby or Tommy or Darlene or whatever their names were, right? I don't think it was a very challenging thing to be a Mouseketeer. Just not recalling that it was that hard a gig. I'm going to come up in only one or two spots under the chin here. Maybe just a couple of spots. I don't know how much to do underneath. Can't really see it under there, but let's radiate out here some, because then it's going to come up on the other leg. The fungus is growing up from the bottom, so it's be like that. So what's going to happen here is that it's just going to come up in like a couple of spots and then radiate chin. I think there were a couple of Mouseketeers who, had some sort of like, one of them was a dancer who ended up on the Lawrence Welk show as a dancer. It's kind of weird, isn't it? But he did. And then Annette Funicello, I think, was on TV shows or maybe even some movies or something. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's some place, that does the biographies of the Mouseketeers. If one really wanted to, could look up what they ended up doing. What happens to former Mouseketeers. Inquiring minds want to know. Most people really don't, but inquiring minds, I guess, do. Much to do underneath there. It's hard to get to it. I want there to be a lot of these veiny things, but not, not overwhelming. The lines are ragged, but I think that's okay. I mean, it is just organic spores kind of growing up and sliming this thing. And if if it doesn't look good when it's done, if they say, well, that you really didn't capture what we were trying to do here, then I'll just repaint it. That can just be redone. Go too far here. The carapace comes kind of around, and the carapace is not infested. That's why I was practicing with those different colors, the khakis and everything else, because just the skin part is infested. There's a lot of there's a lot of this. There's a lot of Bulette here. This needs to go up, right on up to the like it's kind of growing up underneath it almost. It's really not. It's coming along okay. I think. I think not too bad. Kind of veiny. Yeah. Tempted to follow the contours of the body, but there's no reason to think that this goo that's growing up would do that. The brush. Go right up on into the mouth area. It shouldn't just stop at the edge like that. I want to paint that just a line there, a really dark, deep red to highlight the structure of the mouth. Need to do some filling in here. So these red veiny strands are very polite. They don't run into each other. Okay. Let's see that. They're just, they touch. They're looking okay. I'm going to go around and do the other legs before I come back and work on the tail. These are going to have to come out, from underneath and then all along the tail here. I haven't done anything on this side really except started here. There's a lot of surface area under here that needs to be veined. I was noticing that I had this tendency of talking in plurals during the show, like, oh, let's do this, or we, or whatever, let's try this color. Like there was more than one of me here, or you were here doing it with me, painting with me, but why am I doing that? That's kind of weird. But then I watched an old Bob Ross painting show. Why was I watching it? I just flipping channels, and there he was. He was painting. He started with a photo of a mountain and then started painting water and trees and stuff on it. But I noticed that he did the same thing. It's like, oh, let's do this, or we will, or something. I don't. So I've never. It's definitely not intentionally trying to, you know, mimic or copy copy him. I don't have the hair or the beard or anything. Definitely not the hair. He had this big fuzzy hairdo, almost like an afro back in the day. And I have, as you can see, definitely not that. Maybe it's just when one is doing this kind of thing, there's an unnatural tendency to try to like start talking in plurals. I hope you don't mind it if I do it. Let's do this. I should just say, this is what I'm going to do next. I think this paint is getting gummy. I'm not sure. It's still flowing okay. It's actually holding up longer than I'd expect before it started getting really viscous and almost unusable. I have most of this come from the front legs, I think. I keep reminding myself this is definitely not a display model. This is a prop. More important about how is this going to look on camera than how it looks now to me here. And I'm thinking it's going to be okay. Okay, it's getting close to noon. It's pretty good timing. By the time I'm done putting veiny things all over this guy, um, be I'll have enough time to do the olive drab base coat on the carapace. Just ran out of stuff to talk about. I was talking some time ago when I was working on the Savoia. I was talking about, my experience. I was really into airplanes, especially military jets, when I was in grade school, because my uncle was still active in the Air Force, and my father had served in World War II. He was a cadet, learning how to fly P-38s. The war ended before he got into combat, but my uncle was in combat. He flew gliders in Burma. These where they Waco gliders, which was an extremely dangerous thing to do. Gliders are designed to crash. I mean, they just are. His job was to take construction equipment like little mini bulldozers and things into the jungles in Southeast Asia to build airstrips so that airplanes could land. And, when you're delivering construction equipment in order to build airstrips, there isn't an airstrip. That's the whole point, is to build an airstrip. So there really wasn't any place for these gliders to land. They had to hit the ground and just hopefully hold together so that they could deliver their little mini bulldozers and other construction equipment. He did that. So that's one of the reasons why I was really into airplanes back then, because it just sort of came from what you would consider to be an Air Force family, right? In previous streams, I was talking about the 100 series of jet fighters, starting with the F-100, going up through the F-111, and then eventually the F-117, which was the stealth fighter, the very first really stealthy thing that was hyper super secret for a long, long time. But it wasn't really a fighter. It was not designed for air combat. It was designed, pretty much it was actually designed as a test vehicle for the stealth technology. And it served its purpose, but it carried a bomb load. Its purpose was to take out air defense. Since it was stealthy, it was supposed to be able to, evade radar so that it couldn't be shot at with missiles, so that it could shoot missiles, the surface-to-air missiles. And that's what its purpose was. So it was armed with guided bombs, pretty much, or like small cruise missile kinds of things that would seek out radar, take up the radar primarily, and maybe even the missiles themselves, so that other planes that were less stealthy could fly in and drop bombs and missiles on stuff without getting shot down. Anyway, that was the F-117, which was incredibly expensive because they didn't make very many of them. It was kind of a proof of concept. I think it actually was used in combat. I think they actually used it, and I can't remember when or where, but I think, just, to show that it worked, I think they used it. You go in and take out air defense radars and missiles. Anyway, that was the last of the 100 series. And then they all started, new. There was the F4 Phantom, which was sort of an all-purpose plane. It was used by everybody. And then there was an F5, which was based on a trainer. I think it was based on a T-38, but it was sold to other countries as a fighter and was in service for quite a while. I think there were others in that series, the single-digit series, but as I think I talked about it, I wasn't into Navy planes very much. So I wasn't paying attention to the Crusaders and things like that. The lower numbers. Everyone was familiar with the F-14 Tomcat because that's what they flew in Top Gun. So that became famous. That was a swing wing plane. It was very heavy. Big, heavy 2-engine plane that just barely could make it on carriers. High maintenance cost because it was not only heavy and had 2 engines, but because of the swing wing thing, had to keep that working. And every time there's something that moves, anything that moves is something that can break. So that had that. And then there was the F-16 that's still in service. That's the primary plane flown by the Air Force. And the F-18, which has had several iterations, which is the primary plane flown by the Navy. And then there was an F-15, which was just a bruiser of a plane, just overpowered. Fighter bomber variants, radar suppression variations, air superiority fighter. It was just it was a multi-purpose plane, but I think it also was expensive to fly and maintain. So that largely phased out in favor of the F-16, which is a single engine, much easier to take care of kind of airplane, I guess. And then they skipped all the way to F-35. I don't know what came in between. Okay, I'm just going to look around on this and see if there are places that don't look necessarily like a zebra. I want it to look sort of like organic and stuff growing it on it. And sometimes there's blotches like that. And I have to think about the camera angle too. It's most likely to be viewed kind of like this, like you're seeing it now. I should get the inside of this leg here a little bit more. I don't know why they skipped all those numbers, but they did. It went all the way from like the F-18 to the F-35. For reasons. I'm sure there were reasons. I'm going to set this down and stretch my arms a little bit. All of a sudden, it's like the clock stopped or something. Or if it did, look. Just noon. No, the clock is running. It's actually 5-10 minutes fast. I've got more time to fill than I expected. Okay, I think I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to overdo with the veiny stuff. I want it to be obvious but not overwhelming. So I think I need to stop there. And the next thing I'm going to work on, now that I've got this, look at all the little blobs and things. That's kind of, there we go. Is start painting the carapace, and that's khaki, right? This is a combination of detail painting, like on the toenails here. I need to paint around the edges of them and not get it all over everything else. Use a brush like this, and maybe really big areas. I think I'll use this just to try to cover it. If I get it, I'm going to try not to get it too much onto these spiky things. Just a little bit around the base, maybe. Where the edges, I think I can just paint right down to it. I think I can use the big brush and do that. Okay. Well, the brown paint, the beige paint is dry. Okay, it's the red paint that isn't, but most of the red isn't touching the toenails, so I think I can go ahead and paint the toenails first. I can do that safely, and that's what I'm going to try to do. It needs glitter. Oh, that's what we're going to do in the show. When we run into this and attempt to cure it, we're going to sprinkle glitter on it. The glitter will be the cure. I haven't worked on anything this large in a long time. Everything's tiny. Okay. Toenails, front leg, armor sections. Making the assumption, I hope it's correct, that the toenails are made out of the same keratin-like material as the plates on the top, so I'm painting them the same color. I'm on camera. I just checked. Every once in a while, I like to check to see if I'm still on camera. And I'd say about a third of the time I'm not. That's nice. Get to paint these. Guess that's why they make paintbrushes longer like this, right? So one can reach underneath the bottoms of a Bulette and paint the toenails. Distance. I can tell today is going much better than Wednesday because, you know, I hope I don't jinx myself, but I haven't spilled anything or broken anything. Wednesday was quite an ordeal. If you want to be somewhat entertained, go on YouTube and watch the stream from Wednesday because things happened. I was really tired, really tired. So I was knocking things over and losing them, like looking right at something and not being able to see it. I was painting those Ustane Grotfeld dwarf minifigures, and I had two of them up on these sticky tack holder things, and two were on the surface. I knocked all four of them and a couple bottles of paint over with one thing. Just boom, just like that. Knocked all of them. That was a pretty decent accomplishment of almost breaking things. So it was quite a thing. And I lost my color chart binder. It's this 8.5 by 11 dark blue, bright blue binder, ring binder, and I somehow managed to not be able to see it. That was quite an accomplishment. But yeah, Wednesday was quite a challenge. Today isn't as bad. Painting things with a little brush, trying to make sure that it's painted where it needs to be painted and not where it's not. That it takes a while. It's like the detail on the submarine or on the Savoia. Just like it could take a half an hour to paint, 100th of a square inch of something. With if it's detailed painting, like if the boundary lines are challenging or if multiple colors need to be put on something. That's why when I get around to next week sometime, I'm working on the instrument panel for the Savoia, where it's got like dials and buttons and things on this itsy bitsy little thing. It's a half an inch long, and a quarter of an inch high. It's got like 4 or 5 display dials and 3 or 4 switches. It's going to be one of those things that's going to take quite a while because it's just little tiny dots of paint that need to be applied precisely, which, as you know, for me is not really easy. Just checking to make sure I've got all the surfaces painted. And this isn't catching the paint. Maybe it's reflection. Okay, now I'll do the front toes. I'll do the front toes, and I'm going to do these things up on the shoulders, and then start working on the top. So then, they had the 15 F-14s, 15s, and 16s, and 18s. I think there was a 17 in there somewhere. If I remember correctly, what it was like a design competition or something, and the 17 was the one that didn't get picked. And then, oh yeah, how can I forget the F-22? That was a plane that still is. It's in service. That's amazing. Air superiority fighter, very expensive. A lot of electronics and stuff in it. And it was one of those planes. It had some amazing capabilities. It does that. It was the first plane, at least U.S. plane. I don't know if there's Soviet plane that did that or not. That could cruise at supersonic speeds. We think of these supersonic fighters, but they very rarely go supersonic because it's incredibly, almost dropped it, incredibly fuel intensive. In order to get up to that speed, they need to turn on the afterburners, and the way an afterburner works is that the exhaust from the turbojet, or in this case, the turbo fans of one sort, they just dump fuel into the exhaust. So there's in the exhaust of the plane, they're basically starting this huge blazing fire, right? And that creates extra thrust, which makes the plane go faster, but it burns up a lot of fuel. The turbojets themselves are kind of efficient, or the turbofans are fairly efficient in terms of how far you can go on how much fuel, but going supersonic is the opposite of efficient. So unless there's a real need to, jets really don't fly at a supersonic speed. If they're if they're trying to catch something, or they're flying in and out of a combat area where the speed generates safety, okay, then they'll fly at a supersonic speed, but it reduces their range considerably, and unless they can safely refuel, they can't go that far, which is kind of a limitation. Anyway, the F-22 was designed with engines so that it could fly supersonic without using an afterburner, which means that what they could say it could cruise supersonic. It could just use its engines normally. It still used a lot of fuel, but it could just do that without having to dump fuel into the exhaust to make it go faster. And it had all sorts of stealth capabilities, so that it was one of those sneaky planes, kind of like the F-117. It was designed to basically control the airspace by taking out adversaries' anti-aircraft radar and missiles. But it was also designed to dominate the airspace because it had the ability, this massive radar ability to identify and track other planes, many of them at once. And so it was like an air traffic control plane. If there was an aerial combat going on, one of these could just identify, track, and communicate to other planes where they needed to go and what they needed to do. So it was designed to mean, not just on its own, but in combination with others, maintain air superiority by taking out anti-aircraft capabilities and other aircraft. So that was the F-22, so that I didn't want to forget that in talking about the F planes, right? And now they're making an F-35. I don't know what came between the 22 and the 35. There might have been something. And that, I think, no, I don't want to get into too much, opinionating as opposed to describing. Hi, Trinity. Oh, thanks for joining chat, and thanks for joining, watching this stream. What I am doing is I am painting a Bulette. A Bulette is a very, very serious monster in Dungeons and Dragons. It is sort of traditionally, it's kind of mindlessly destructive. It burrows underground and then comes up and wreaks havoc. And they're really big. So this is a regular minifig, is about like up to here, up to the shoulder, kind of. But a Bulette is just kind of this mindless creature that if it decides to come up from underground and there's anything in its way, it just sort of like destroys it. This particular Bulette is infected. I don't know what our DM is going to do. I don't know the story. But this is likely to show up as an adversary, I'm guessing. I mean, they're not known to be friendly beasts. I'm guessing this is going to show up as a surprise adversary during one of our Dungeons and Dragons show sessions. But it's infected with mycelium that's growing up from the base into it. And I've done this sort of thing before. We've run into these fungus monsters, but not a Bulette fungus monster. I mean, just, fungus monsters like monsters like this. But you can see the mycelium grows up from the base and infects it and grows up into it. So this is what's happened to this one. And I've got base coat and the infection growing up the skin up to the carapace. The carapace isn't infected because it's just keratin, like hooves, like the hooves are the toes, the toenails. But I don't know. I don't know when this is going to show up or what it's going to be, but it's not. It doesn't look nice. It's not only a Bulette, which is in itself horribly dangerous, but it's a fungus-infected Bulette, which probably doesn't make it any more docile. And it's got these open sores that are going to be oozing stuff and so on. Oh, you're buying miniatures and battle boards. Are you going to you're going to do a DM then? You're going to be the DM? Are you going to try to run a game? No, you played in the 80s when you were younger. I tell this story over and over again. I played when it pretty much first came out my first D&D games were actually televised, believe it or not, in Madison, Wisconsin in about 1975. And I was a graduate school student, which tells you something, age-wise. I was a graduate school student, and this D&D game came out, as did cable television for the very first time. Yeah. So you are going to be painting your miniatures as well, or are you buying them already done? Yeah. When we televised it, we couldn't televise rolling a D20, so we had a Wheel of Fortune thing, and we spun it to see what the roll would be. It was actually pretty fun. I don't think anybody ever watched it because in 1975, no one knew what D&D was. And it was like on a Saturday night from 10 until midnight when anybody, oh, good, you're going to be painting them? Cool. That's how this stream started, is painting dungeon tiles and minis for the show. In fact, this would be a really excellent time to show off our dungeon tiles. You'll probably really like these. I'd like to show them off. So I'm going to cap this up for just a second so I don't spill it while I do it. So you're buying miniatures. Oh, you're going to play with your family. Even better. So you have the whole family play together. A multi-generational game. Yeah, so I was like one of the original D&D players and one of the original D&D streamers, except it wasn't streaming. It was cable access, community access cable. Yeah, so this stream started because of painting dungeon tiles and minifigs like this Bulette, or these guys. Okay, these guys here that I just finished on Wednesday. That these are adversaries. These are a dwarven family that we have ticked off. We've ticked off royally, and they're now trying to get us. They have projectile weapons because of a special technology that our DM has created for the game. But these are the kind of dungeon tiles that we make on the 3D printers back there. And then the stream started because we wanted to paint them for the show. So they're base coated and detailed and then washed. But the cool thing our DM did is these plates underneath, each corner has 2 ball magnets. And look, they hold together. And so there's corner tiles, inside corners, windows. I mean, all sorts of really cool different features. I just keep these around to sort of demonstrate how this works. Yeah, you don't need a special surface or anything. You don't need clips. They come apart and stick together. It's really, really neat. And then these are made to look like wood. So they're primed and then base coated brown. And then this is just a wash, a smoky ink wash. But we also have, and then there's a stucco feature that's painted on. But they also have like operating doors. So if you're going to do a minifig, you could do, okay, like if this was you, and there's somebody on the other side, you could hide behind the door. The guys would, they'd come through the door and you'd go, aha, drop your weapon, or more likely, poof. Yeah, they're super customizable. I'll just do a advertising. We've actually talked about producing and selling these. Kind of like you could buy a set and then watch your set be painted on the stream as a customizable thing. We've never really gotten that far, but I think they're cool enough that they're and unique enough. Especially with plain floors and corners, and some of these have windows, lattice windows on them. They're really neat. And they're strong because I dropped them, and I know they don't break. This is a thing I really like. This particular tile. So here you are. You're walking through your dungeon. Bump, bump, and seriously, as a player, you can set up the dungeon so you can't see what's going to happen. As a DM, you can set it up that way. And then you go here and it springs a trap. Okay. And in gameplay, the tile rotates, and then there's this plate here with a magnet on it, and you can have a flame come out or a gas cloud. Yes. So it's a trap tile. And on the show, it would really work because you can set up the camera so that, that doesn't show until it's actually triggered. But it can also work in gameplay where the players themselves walking through wouldn't know, if it's set up so that they're looking at it from this side, you wouldn't know that there was a trap there. Anyway, we have, just a lot of really cool features like that. And this is part of a fire mage's lair. There's sigils built in and hand painted onto the walls, and then there's a cauldron, and there's a magnet in there, and a flame comes up out of there as well. So this stream is about Dungeons and Dragons because it was started as preparing those. And I still, from time to time, like I did this week, make minifigs. These were we printed these ourselves on a rosin printer across the hall, not a PLA printer. So this is a group of guys that we're going to be running into. Wash is old school. I've tried using speed paints. To be honest, I can't get them really to work. I just can't get it to work. So, like these guys, let me show you this one. So the technique was the whole thing was base coated brown, basically the color of the gloves here. And then I took a metallic paint that was designed for airplanes. So it's for airbrushes. And then I watered it down using water as a thinner and painted the metallic over the brown so it looks, the brown still shows through. So that's not brown metallic paint. It's a very thin metallic wash over a brown base coat. And then it's a gray wash on top of that to highlight some of the features and dumb it down a little bit. And then the barrel is base coated green and bronze, and then I use a green wash, a dark green wash to, show the barrel staves, get the detail in the barrel staves. And then the canister that's supposed to be poison gas under there is base painted green with a thinned yellow paint washed over it. So yeah, it's the old school style. And I think actually, well, for two reasons. One is I haven't been able to get the speed paints to work for some reason. But the other is that I think the washes give you more flexibility in terms of color combinations. So like this guy here, it's just base coated beige, and then the mycelium is growing up into it, and then it'll be washed. You can see the color difference here. It's going to be washed with a green wash, like on the back here. A green wash goes over it so that it looks all kind of mossy. Anyway, I've gotten fairly good at painting the detail. I'm still learning how to use the washes effectively for shading. That's something I'm just sort of picking up as I go along. It's not a skill that I really have. Why Yeah, this khaki paint is not, it's showing little, it's not covering. As it's drying, it's showing white spots. I've discovered this when I'm painting, is that some paints, if they're kind of viscous, when they dry, they shrink and they open up. There aren't bubbles, but it just opens up spots. And in this case, those spots need to be covered up because, I'm not going to be able to just hide them under a wash. So I have to go back over them. It just ends up taking longer. And then this whole carapace has to be painted this khaki color eventually. At least the touching up goes quickly because I don't have to get right on up to the edges. I just need to get all these little white spots that have opened up. And if you go back on YouTube and watch some of the former episodes, you can see how slowly I work, though. In addition to these, when I don't have dungeon tiles and minifigs, I've been working on models. Right now, I'm working on the Savoia S21 Porco Rosso's plane. And I'll be getting back to that next week. Yeah, you can add water to it. In fact, that's probably the best way to thin it. If you use like paint thinner, which it's tempting to do because it's called paint thinner, right? It can dissolve the base coat. How do I know that? I know that because it's happened. And it's a very sad thing when it does. What you need to know, though, is that if you use water, it's going to dry quite slowly. But yeah, you can make your own washes. We use not a plug or anything. It's just what we do. Is Viejos. They make quite a large number of different colors. But just putting water into the acrylic works just fine. And then you can control the amount of pigment too. I mean, by just how dilute you make it. I think I can use the larger brush for this, otherwise it'll take forever. How many mini? Okay, so I know you're gonna make a minifig for each of your characters, probably, right? Of course. So you're making minifigs for all the adversaries you run into too? Okay, this brush is too big for that. So the carapace, because it's made out of keratin, is not infected. So it's actually going to be painted kind of Bulette color. This is the kind of thing that I ended up doing, and you probably will too, is what color does the carapace get painted? So I had like 4 or 5 different potential base colors, depending on if you want a greenish or brownish, and then 5 different washes. So each one of these has 5 different washes on it, and ended up deciding to paint it this khaki green base wash with kind of a reddish brown, khaki green base paint with kind of a reddish brown wash on it. So once it's washed, it's going to look very different than it does now. Because this greenish color will become kind of a brownish color, and there'll be a lot more variety to it. It won't look quite as flat. If you, I don't know how much model painting you have done in the past, but you're going to want some really good, very fine-tipped brushes. I found that, you have to go to like 10-0 and even 20-0 brushes in order to be able to do what you need to do. You also need to be able to see. Good luck with that. I should say, for me, my eyes just are really bad. I can't see more than about 18 inches away without glasses, but I can't wear glasses while I'm painting because with bifocals or trifocals, the only part that focuses close up are right down at the bottom of the lenses. So I'd have to be painting like this, and it's just impossible. Fortunately, I can see about 18 inches away. So unless I'm doing really fine detail work, I'm able to paint without my glasses. I did get, there's some things, if you're spending money in building models, other than really good, other than really good brushes, especially fine, you're going to want really fine point brushes for getting the lines right and the details and stuff. And then kind of a stiff bristled, kind of like this one. It's kind of broad brush, fairly broad, but with stiff bristles for washing. But this is the thing I'll show you. This was the one investment that I found was really made a huge difference. It's called a head magnifier. And you don't have to buy this brand. I won't even show you the brand. But it's a head magnifier. It does not make your head bigger. Okay. But it's they go on like glasses, and they've got interchangeable lenses all the way from like 1x to 3x. Hi, thanks for joining in. And it's even got a little light built. I don't have enough hands. Oh, that was almost a disaster. I'd gotten so far without disaster. I think it's even got a little LED light that's adjustable and can shine down on the work. And I find this is invaluable. Wizard. Oh, yeah. I'm not supposed to do any kind of plugs, but we have bought a Hero. What is it? Hero Forge. Yeah, I think that's the name of it. Hero Forge, and you can kind of. Oh, cool. Well, yeah, thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, those head magnifiers. Seriously, if you're going to be painting minis and you're older than about 20, and your eyes are kind of going, I find that head magnifier is absolutely essential for painting minifigs with any kind of detail at all. You will find them a little bit disturbing because if you paint like a base coat, like I'm doing, without using it, and then you look at it with the head magnifier, say like 2x, and it's like every little flaw, every little blip that isn't perfect shows up. So it's, on one hand it's essential, on the other hand it's like, oh, I thought I did better than that. Did I get these? Yep, I got both shoulders done. So these are going to be painted the khaki color, and then after the khaki dries, I'll go over it with this fiery smoky ink, this reddish brown wash, and the green it'll be a little lighter than this. I'm not going to put it on quite as heavy as that, but it's going to make it kind of brownish green, and some of the detail will show. This guy is infested, so all these spiky things are going to be painted yellow with green, icky green highlights. And it's got open sores. Lovely, huh? So this is a Bulette. It's a monster we're going to sort of run into in our Dungeons and Dragons show. Great. I've got all these brushes sitting in the water with their bristles bending. Hi, who? Yeah. So Trinity was asking about getting models, minis, and I think I was mentioning if you can't print them yourself, we just end up printing them ourselves because we've gone through enough of them now that and then we can make them custom, like this Bulette. Okay, can't buy an infested Bulette model anywhere, but our DM was able to design it and then print it on our 3D printer. But I was mentioning what Hero Forge, and I think you can they make different qualities. You can get really expensive metal cast kinds of things, which you don't need for your game, but you can get either primed or unprimed PLA printed, and you can sort of design them yourselves too, if I remember. Everybody who becomes a follower and goes to YouTube and becomes what a subscriber is very welcome. This painting stream is a spin-off. I'm calling it the Mork and Mindy of Dungeons and Dragons, because we like this for our show, we print our own minifigs and dungeon tiles and then paint them. And our DM said, well, if you're going to do the painting, why don't you do the painting with a stream? And I said, that's a stupid idea. And she said, do it anyway. And so that's how this all started. And when I don't have minifigs or dungeon tiles to paint, I work on models, and I am currently working on here. I'm going to take a chance at knocking things over. I'm working on the Savoia S21, Porco Rosso's plane. And the Porco Rosso plane is kind of a cutaway model in that the fuselage, I'll show you the thing I'm working on, the fuselage lifts off and it shows the inside. And I spent you can just see a million hours doing the detail of the inside of the cockpit. Like the fuel tank, putting it together, sanding the seams out. You can hardly see the seams, painting the attachment bands. There's like 4 different colors on the control stick and stuff like that. So I'm going to be getting back to this next week. I need to paint the instrument panel. And the instrument panel is that tiny little thing up there that has dials and switches and all sorts of things on it. Oh, yeah. So anyway, I'll be getting back to that, but I've been practicing my skills on this guy. I really want this to look really great, and I think so far I've been pretty successful at getting the details done. And even like on the machine guns there, the little inserts in the radiators on the barrels and stuff like that, or the filler cap on the fuel tank. Anyway, I'm kind of pleased at how that's coming out. Oh, yeah. There's nothing. We have stayed away from the local hobby shop. I used to go to that. Used to go to the local hobby shop. I didn't build models. I got into radio-controlled airplanes for a while and ended up buying way more stuff than I needed. I'm just painting the inside of the infested thing so it has the same base color as the rest. I'm using a big brush on this because I'm painting a large surface area, and the boundary lines are pretty easy to get to. They're raised up. So I just need to kind of paint up to them. And then you can see there's a mouth line there. I'm going to put dark red paint in that. And I'm going to do that before I start doing any washing. Because one thing I've learned in modeling is that the paint doesn't always go where I want it to. And so if I paint a dark red line in there, I'm almost certainly going to have to repaint some of this khaki color because I'll get the dark red. I'll get the dark red onto where I want the khaki color. I know that's going to happen. And I just got khaki onto, I wasn't careful. Yep. What I'd like to do in the next 15 minutes is finish base coating this. And then on Monday, when I get back to this on Monday, I'm going to be painting the spikes yellow and getting the green highlights on them. I'm not going to put, the brown, the smoky ink wash on the carapace after I paint the spikes. And the reason for that is because I don't always get to paint where I want it to. So when I paint the spikes in the mushrooms, I'm likely to get yellow paint onto the khaki paint, and then I'll have to touch it up with khaki paint. Just like I will have to touch up the khaki paint when I paint the mouth lines on. I'm getting a little better as I've been away from modeling since I was pretty much in a sophomore in high school is about the last time I really did any modeling. I've been away from it, and I'm either relearning or learning for the first time things like the order in which stuff needs to be done because of the anticipation of making mistakes. You know, like I did a little bit earlier, sometimes getting one of the most common things I do is I'm really careful about where the paint goes, but I'm not careful about getting the paint to and from the surface. And so I'll smash the brush, like bringing the khaki brush up to the surface. I'll smash it into a place that's already been painted. And so I've learned not to put a wash on until all the colors of the base coat are done. Why? Because one color is definitely going to get onto another color. And like if I get if I smash this, I'm not even on camera. Good God, sorry. If I smash my brush into this, okay, I have the opportunity at least to rebase coat it the beige color and put the red stripes back on. But if it's been washed, I can't, I mean, the whole thing would have to be repainted over the wash. Otherwise, it'll be an obvious spot. So this base coat goes on, and then I'm going to paint the spikes yellow, and then the mouth line that deep red color. And then once I get the boundaries between the colors correct, I'll start putting the washes on. And I'm only going to be using 2 colors of wash. I'm going to be using a dark green gray color on the parts that are infected, and a smoky ink, which is a reddish brown color, on the carapace, which is not infected. And then you can see these holes here. Those are oozing sores. You can do, yeah, you're doing relaxing painting too. Yeah, those are oozing sores, which are either going to be black with red ooze or red with black ooze. And a decision was made which way to go, but I don't remember what the decision was. That happens. It's because the decision was made I was really sleep deprived on Wednesday and Thursday. I mean, seriously, very, very sleepy, and barely survived the stream on Wednesday without having a major disaster. I mean, disaster like spilling a whole paint jar and things like that. Um, so the decision was made and communicated to me. I can't get the brush there. Okay, I'll have to paint that with a smaller brush. Trying to get into that opening down there, the festering sore. Thanks for being new followers. This painting stream is on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 10 until 1. I know the screen says 10 until 2. That's a lie. It used to be 10 until 2, but I changed it to match my body schedule. I'm going to go in from 10 until 1, and I'll be working on this model on Monday, maybe Wednesday, and then after that, I'll be returning to the Savoia and working on the instrument panel. And you'll be watching the top of my head as I use my head magnifier to try to paint the instrument dials on the instrument panel. That should be, I really want to make that look good. There's two options. One is just a decal, which will look like a decal, and the other one is a painted option, which will make it look like a real instrument panel. And I very, very much want to be able to pull off the painted version. So I'll be using infinitesimally small brushes and my head magnifier as I'm putting little bitty dots of white paint on some spots, and bronze. I'm going to use bronze for the bezels around the instrument dials. So you might find that anyway, finishing this, which is mainly going to end up being just, painting another base color and then doing some washing on it. I think that'll be kind of interesting to watch, but you might want to, just keep checking in to look at the progress on the Savoia, because that should be pretty interesting. I'll be finishing the interior of the Savoia, the part that's a cutaway that I showed you earlier, the inside of the fuselage, and moving on to the engine compartment, and after the engine compartment, the fuselage. And most of what I'll be doing, and actually most of what I've been doing on most of the models I've been building, is not so much painting, but just cleaning up the parts. I've been doing a lot of filing and sanding on the plastic parts to get rid of the attachment points where they attach to the sprues. Oh, what's that? There's a little bit of a filament here. It needs to come off. This is a low-cost tool that you'll probably want, is a good pair of tweezers. There was just a little bit of filament from the molding process that was sitting there. I'm just going to look over at there, see if I missed spots or if the paint is pulling away. sometimes painting large areas like this, when the paint dries, it shrinks and it will open up white spots. Where there'll be a spot like this where it's like slightly indented or something. And the brush didn't get paint into it. Or in this case, just looking at it from a different angle and seeing the tops, there's like a crease there between the plates that didn't get painted. I end up spending a fair amount of time just correcting problems because at a later stage in painting, I sometimes look at it from a different angle and say, oh, I missed a spot there. I painted one model once, and when I was about to put the wash on it, I started rotating it, and it was like I didn't paint an entire leg of a minifig. Just didn't turn it in that direction when I was painting it. Yeah, I'm starting to get little white spots now. So on Monday, when I look at this, I'm going to see little white spots all over the place. And I'm going to be just getting out the khaki paint again and touching them up. Because even with a wash on them, they're going to end up showing. So the next steps on this are, well, one is to touch up all the little white spots that are going to show up on the khaki paint after it dries. Then painting the yellow, all these little spikes, which is going to be, this is going to be kind of, it's going to take longer than one would think because there's a lot of surface area that's kind of hard to get to and a lot of junction points between one color and the other that I need to be careful about. So I'll be using a little bitty brush painting yellow paint. The yellow paint sometimes doesn't cover very well, so it might need a second coat in places. So that takes a while because it has to dry and then be recoated. And after I'm done with the yellow, then I'll go back with, then I'll paint the mouth lines. And then after I paint the mouth lines, I'll come back with the khaki and touch up spots that where the colors, blobbed onto each other in places where I didn't want them. And then I might have to go back again with the other base color just a couple of times until it's ready to be washed. I might paint the oozing sores. I have to decide whether to paint the oozing sores before I put the wash on or not. Like I said, if trying to fix mistakes after it's washed is really hard. So if I paint the oozy spots, I probably should do that before I do the wash. Yeah, I mean, I'll just get all the base coat on, all of the base coats on, get the lines, the definition lines as clean as I can get them, and then do the two colors of wash on it after that. So I probably won't bother with the little white spots. No, I'm just thinking about the order in which to go. Oh, yeah, please. Thanks for dropping in and thanks for becoming a follower. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much. I'll be wrapping up soon anyway because it's almost 1:00. So the next steps on this is I'm talking to myself because it helps me also plan. I need to get the base coats on, so I'm going to do the yellow on all these spiky points. maybe have to do 2 coats. That's a possibility. Then after the yellow is on, just like with this guy, you can see there's like green highlights all over it. So I'll get the green out and do little green spots on all of the things and paint some sort of mushrooming stuff on the tops of the mushrooms. Okay. After that's done, I'll have yellow on the khaki where I don't want it. And I'll be painting the mouth here so that you can see the interior of the mouth, just a thin line. I'll probably need to touch that up with both the buff and the khaki to get the line so it's not ragged. Okay. So yellow, 2 coats of yellow, green highlights, mouth, touch up buff and khaki, maybe retouch back in the other direction if necessary. I'll do the green spots, and then the base coat will be done. The carapace gets washed with a brownish, reddish brown, smoky ink wash, and the underbody and the spikes get washed with a grayish color, kind of olive green wash. There's little other bits like the nostrils. Okay. At some point, I will put little dots of very black paint on there. And there's an eyeball in here. I might paint that bright red. This eyeball is gone. Okay. So those are the many steps that need to be followed yet. And after all of that is done, then I'll be painting the base. I don't know. It's either going to be dark brown with a brown wash, or it'll be gray with a black wash. I'm not sure which. We'll pick a color that kind of highlights things. Okay, so this guy's going to dry over the weekend, and then on Monday I'll be back continuing to work on it. The rest of this, I just have to apologize in advance, is going to be slow and tedious. Painting these little spikes is probably going to take, for me, a long time, an hour or more. And then going back over the whole thing and doing touching up. Anyway, I'm going to be wrapping up. I want to invite everybody to watch our Dungeons and Dragons show, which streams with a live chat on Sundays at 2. And you can catch it on YouTube and as a podcast. So please watch that, because that's what Dice and Dungeons is all about, is the Dungeons and Dragons show. This is just a sidelight spinoff to get me out of everybody's hair in the house 3 days a week in the morning. And also sometimes to create things that show up on our show, like this Bulette and the Ulstein Grotfeld dwarves that I finished earlier. So if you like what you see, please become a follower, as Trinity did today. Thank you. And as Mr. Flakes did. I appreciate that. If you want to watch other episodes, or just catch little bits of them just to see, some of the progress on some of these models or whatever, please check it out on YouTube, and you can become not a sponsor. Right. It's late in the stream. I can't remember words. Subscriber. Yeah. A subscriber on YouTube. That would be great. And if you really like what you see, you can go to patreon.com/diceanddungeons and become a patron. And when you do, you get access to really cool stuff, like you get to watch our improvisational warm-ups, which are hilarious usually, and oftentimes really silly, that we do those before recording each session of our D&D show. And you also get access to our Dungeon Master's notes, our DM's notes. She's our Dungeon Mistress, actually. She likes to be called that. Our DM's notes. And more recently, we've been asking artificial intelligence to write us stuff. And then we do a cold read, and it's usually pretty doofus, the stuff that we get. That's a real word, right? It's usually it's not It's not brilliant, we'll put it, so we get to critique it as we read it. And those have been kind of fun to do. I'm just cleaning the brushes here. When I'm done, I'm going to push the end session button on the thing up there, and I will be back on Monday at more or less 10, continuing to work on the Bulette. So thanks, everybody, and hope to see you between 10 and 1 on Monday. Have a good weekend. Bye.